Hi everyone, welcome back to the final video of the series, where I will be refactoring some code and give you a few suggestions for writing better and consistent code.
We will get into the code and start with our blocks controller. The first thing I'm going to change is to remove the validation from the controller and move it inside the form request. Laravel provides us form requests, which allows us to validate incoming requests. Our controllers are only responsible for just joining the model with a view. So even though we can write validation logic inside our controllers, writing validation inside is a bad approach. And it also violates first rule of solid principle, which is single responsibility. So now let's move the validation from our controller to a form request.
So inside the code, let's open up our block controller, which is inside controllers, and inside let's remove this request validation and move it into a form request. So in order to generate a form request, let's open up the terminal, and I'm going to run the command php artisan make request, and the name of the request is up to you, but since we are going to make a request for blog, I'm going to name it blog request. And now we can see that inside our HTTP folder, we can see a request directory. And inside we have a blog request. So by default, there will be two methods. The first one is the authorize and the other one is the rules. So authorize is basically for authorizing the user whether or not he can perform this action. So inside the authorize, I'm just going to do auth user, or we can use has user. So if there is any authenticated user, then he is allowed to perform this action, is authorized. And inside the rules, what we need to do is go back to our controller, and I'm just going to copy this one from here, the validation rules, and paste it inside this return array. And now we can use it inside the controller. I can get rid of this request validate, and instead of using HTTP request, now we can do blog request, and that's it.
Next, I'm going to use observers. So whenever there is some code that you would want to run when an action related to database such as record insertion or updation or being inserted are performed, you do this inside an observer. As the name suggests, it observes model events, which includes a whole list of events that are available to be observed, and they are all mentioned in the official documentation. But a few mostly used one includes created, updated, and deleted. So for our blog application, I'm going to remove our images related logic and move it from the controller to an observer.
Inside our code, we are going to just move this logic from the controller to an observer. But first, we need an observer. So let's open up our terminal and run the command php artisan make observer. And I'm also going to specify the model name, which is blog. Oh, we missed the name, and the name is going to be blog observer. And now you can see there is another new directory called observers inside our app folder. Inside the blog observer, you can see we already have few methods defined for us. So I'm just going to use the created one. And first, let's go to the blog controller and copy this logic from here, and I'm going to paste it inside the created method. So once the data has been inserted into the database, then this event will be triggered. So now that we don't have the access to the request variable, what we can do is use the request helper method, which is available globally, and I'm just going to remove the request variable and use the request helper method. Also, let's include the storage, and also let's just add the string eliminate sport str, and I think we are good to go. So whenever a blog is created and inserted into the database, our created method will be triggered. And what we are doing inside is we are just storing the image if there is any. Now the next thing is to open up any service provider, but since we are dealing with events, the best one is going to be event service provider, and we need to bind this observer with the model class. So inside the boot method, what I'm going to do is write the model name, which is blog, and observe. And inside, I'm going to give the name of the observer class, which is blog observer class. And now whenever a new blog is created, our observer will be observing the model events.
Next, when we are creating APIs, most of the time we don't want to include all the fields of a model in the response. Of course, you can do it via the query and select only the required fields, but that will result into duplication of code. So in order to achieve this abstraction, we can use API resources. Using that, we can customize what to include and what not to include in the response. Now let's create an API resource for blog and the user.
So in order to generate an API resource, let's go into our terminal and write the command php artisan make resource, and the name is user resource. Running the command, we can see that we have a new directory called resources, and inside we have our user resource, which only has one method called toArray. And I'm not going to return parent toArray, but instead a custom array. And now here I can specify whichever attribute I want to show and which I don't want to share with the API response. So inside the user, we have name, email, password, and we also have timestamps for created at and updated at. So I'm not going to share those. I'm just going to share the name and the email. So what I can do here is name, and you can specify the key name, whatever you want it to be. And the value is going to be name. I'm going to copy this one, and also I'm going to share the email. And now wherever we are going to use this API resource, we are only showing the name and email for this user, nothing else. And we can also add the ID as well. So this ID, and that's it. So now in order to use this, I'm going to go into our user API controller, and inside this response, I'm just going to replace the user with user resource make, and the user we are going to pass in, and that's it. So now we are not sharing all the attributes of the user model, but instead we are just sharing the name, email, and ID. And if you want to know more about API resources in detail, I have a video for that as well. So it will be on the top, or I will also leave the link in the description.
Now the last thing I would like to change is the API responses. And there are multiple ways you can use to have a consistent response. I prefer to use the macros for this, but you can use either the API resources or even the traits for the same purpose. In order to create a macro, you simply define it inside the boot method of your service provider. And in most cases, it is going to be app service provider.
So now we are inside our code, and let's go to our app service provider. So inside the service provider, inside the boot method, let's create our response macro. So it is going to be response macro, and the first argument is the name of the macro. I'm going to name it success, and the second is the callback. And what it is going to return is response JSON. So here we can define our response. So our success response is going to have a success true, and it may have a message. Instead of adding static message, I'm going to receive it from wherever it is called from. So it is going to take a data, a message, and a status code, which by default will be 200. It is going to be a success macro. And now we are just going to use these variables. Message is going to be message, and the data is going to be data. And also we have a status code, so let's add that one as well. So now we have a success macro. Let me just copy this one, paste it one more time, and I'm going to rename it to error. And it is going to take in an error, a message, and a status code, which by default will be 400. So what we are going to return is a response of JSON with success false, message is going to be message, and instead of data we are going to have error, and that's it. Now in order to use it, we go back to wherever we want to use it, and I'm going to say return response and success. And now we need to just pass in the parameters. The first one is going to be the data, yep, and the second one is going to be the message. So our data is user, actually not user, it's the resource we just created, and the second one is going to be empty string, so we are not sending any message. And the third one is optional, we can add 200, but it defaults to 200, so it is not necessary. So this is one way of creating a general response.
And that's it for the video and for the series. I hope it was helpful for everyone. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.